In a bizarre twist that could only come from the darkest corners of the criminal world, one notorious killer has extended a hand to another. Keith Jesperson, the man infamous as the Happy Face Killer, has made a shocking public proposal. He wants Bryan Kohberger, the man who just pled guilty to slaughtering 4 innocent University of Idaho students, to become his new cellmate. Jesperson, serving multiple life sentences at the Oregon State Penitentiary, claims he is offering this strange form of sanctuary out of concern for Kohberger's safety. He believes the Idaho prison system is far too dangerous for a high-profile inmate like Kohberger, who he describes as lacking the street smarts needed to survive behind bars. This offer is not just a casual comment. Jesperson says he intends to formalize it. He plans to write directly to the Idaho Department of Corrections, officially recommending that Kohberger be transferred out of state and into his personal care. The Happy Face Killer argues that Oregon's prison system is better equipped to handle inmates who are at high risk of being targeted by others. He points to a history of Oregon accepting transfers from other states for this very reason, suggesting it is a common and practical solution. The irony is staggering. A man who took at least 8 lives now wants to play guardian angel to another killer, all in the name of prison justice. Jesperson's reasoning paints a grim picture of prison hierarchy and the unwritten rules that govern it. He sees Kohberger as a prime target, someone whose awkwardness and the nature of his crimes make him incredibly vulnerable. In Jesperson's eyes, Kohberger is a dead man walking in the harsh environment of an Idaho maximum security facility. He draws a chilling parallel to the fate of Jeffrey Dahmer, who was murdered by a fellow inmate in 1994 while serving his sentence. Jesperson believes that without his intervention, Kohberger is destined for a similar violent end at the hands of those who appoint themselves judge, jury, and executioner within the prison walls. This proposal has captured public attention, highlighting the strange and often unseen dynamics of life imprisonment. The idea of one serial killer mentoring another on survival is a macabre concept, yet it stems from a very real and persistent problem within correctional facilities. High-profile inmates, especially those convicted of heinous crimes against women and children, often face a constant threat of violence from the general population. While the offer comes from a deeply disturbed individual, the concerns he raises about inmate safety are valid and force us to look at the brutal reality that awaits men like Bryan Kohberger as they begin to serve their time. The case that led to this strange situation horrified the nation and left a permanent scar on a small Idaho college town. On November 13, 2022, 4 promising young students, Madison Mogan, Kaylee Goncalves, Zana Knodl, and Ethan Chapin, were brutally stabbed to death in their off-campus home. The crime was shocking in its savagery, with the victims, 3 of whom were asleep, attacked in their own beds. For weeks, the community lived in fear as police hunted for a suspect. The investigation culminated in the arrest of Bryan Kohberger, a criminology PhD student from a neighboring university, whose DNA was allegedly found on a knife sheath left at the scene. After a lengthy legal battle and mounting evidence against him, Kohberger's path took a decisive turn in July 2025. To avoid a potential death sentence, he agreed to a plea deal. He pleaded guilty to 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary, a stunning admission that brought the case to an abrupt close. This plea meant he would not face a jury, and the families of the victims would be spared the trauma of a long and graphic trial. In exchange for his confession, the prosecution dropped its pursuit of capital punishment, a move that ensured Kohberger would spend the rest of his natural life behind bars. On July 23, 2025, the court handed down its sentence, sealing Kohberger's fate. He received 4 consecutive life terms, without the possibility of parole, 1 for each life he viciously took. An additional 10 years were added for the burglary charge, making it clear he would never again be a free man. As part of his plea agreement, Kohberger also waived all rights to appeal his conviction or sentence. With the legal proceedings concluded, he was immediately transferred from county jail to the custody of the Idaho Department of Corrections, destined for the state's most formidable prison to begin his sentence. Newly released documents have shed more light on the man behind these horrific crimes. Described by those who knew him as socially awkward, annoying, and a weirdo, Kohberger struggled with social interactions. His own defense team noted his diagnosis of autism, slow verbal processing, and weaknesses in executive functioning. These traits, combined with the heinous nature of his crimes, killing vulnerable young people in their sleep, have created the very profile that Jesperson warns is a magnet for violence in the unforgiving world of a maximum security prison. His personality and his crimes have set the stage for a perilous existence. Bryan Kohberger's new home is the Idaho Maximum Security Institution in Kuna, a facility with a reputation for being one of the most brutal prisons in the United States. It is not a place for the faint of heart, known for its harsh conditions and violent atmosphere. IMSI was ranked among America's 15 worst prisons in 2024 by independent watchdog groups. Reports have consistently cited rampant violence among inmates, unsanitary living conditions in the cells, and what many critics call an overuse of solitary confinement as a management tool. This is the environment where Kohberger is expected to live out the remainder of his days, surrounded by Idaho's most dangerous and hardened criminals. Upon his arrival, Kohberger was placed in the reception and diagnostic unit, where he will undergo a 7 to 14-day evaluation period. During this time, corrections officials will assess his physical and mental health, security risks, and overall needs to determine his long-term housing assignment. For his own protection, he is expected to remain in isolation, separated from the general population. An Idaho Department of Corrections spokesperson has emphasized that the safety and security of all inmates are their top priorities, and every placement decision is made with these factors in mind. But for a prisoner as notorious as Kohberger, ensuring safety is a monumental challenge. The unwritten code of prison life is particularly unforgiving for inmates convicted of certain types of crimes. Those who have harmed women and children are often at the bottom of the prison hierarchy and are frequently targeted for abuse, extortion, or violent attacks. The fact that 3 of Kohberger's victims were women killed while they slept is seen as an act of extreme cowardice that will not go unnoticed by other inmates. In their world, such actions violate even a criminal's sense of honor, making the perpetrator a marked man from the moment he steps into the yard. His academic background and awkward demeanor will only make him stand out more. Surviving inside IMSI requires a specific set of skills that many, including Keith Jesperson, believe Kohberger does not possess. It demands prison smarts, an intuitive understanding of social cues, alliances, and the constant threat of danger. It means knowing who to trust, who to avoid, and how to project an aura of strength even when terrified. Kohberger's documented social difficulties and weirdo reputation suggest he is ill-equipped for this brutal social landscape. He is entering a world where any perceived weakness can be exploited, and his high-profile status makes him a trophy for anyone looking to make a name for themselves. Despite the chilling logic behind Keith Jesperson's proposal, the chances of Bryan Kohberger being transferred to Oregon are virtually zero. The primary obstacle is bureaucratic and logistical. Idaho is not a participant in the Regional Interstate Transfer Agreement that Oregon and other western states are part of. This compact allows for the seamless movement of inmates between member states for various reasons, including security and safety management. Since Idaho is not in this network, there is no established protocol for sending one of its prisoners to a facility like the Oregon State Penitentiary. Overcoming this hurdle would require a special, unprecedented arrangement. Idaho officials have remained tight-lipped and have given no indication whatsoever that they are considering an out-of-state transfer for Kohberger. From their perspective, they are fully capable of managing their own inmates, regardless of their notoriety. The Idaho Department of Corrections has a mandate to house and secure individuals sentenced in Idaho courts, and sending a prisoner to another state could be seen as an admission that their own system is inadequate. For a state to willingly hand over such a high-profile inmate would be a significant and highly unusual step, one that corrections departments are typically reluctant to take. Jesperson's argument that Oregon is safer is based on his own experience at OSP, where he claims the facility is adept at protecting vulnerable inmates. He may be right that a change of scenery could theoretically reduce the immediate risks Kohberger faces at IMSI, where his case is fresh in the minds of local inmates and staff. A transfer could place him in a more anonymous setting, far from the intense local media coverage and public anger. However, the nature of his crimes would follow him anywhere. The inmate code that puts child and women killers at risk is not unique to Idaho. It is a pervasive reality in prisons across the country. Ultimately, while the happy face killer's offer has sparked a fascinating debate about prison safety, it remains a grim fantasy. Bryan Kohberger was convicted in Idaho, and will almost certainly serve his sentence in Idaho. The state will rely on its own internal security measures, such as protective custody or permanent isolation, to manage the threat against him. These measures may protect him from physical harm, but they come at the cost of extreme social and psychological deprivation. Whether he is safer in isolation in Idaho or in general population in Oregon is a question that will never be answered. The reality is, his life sentence is a sentence to a lifetime of looking over his shoulder.